equal to a big country in terms of sovereignty. What does that actually mean? That means a big country must respect the sovereignty of the small country, and the small country respects the sovereignty of the big country. The word respect, I think, is very helpful today. Respect. Each country has equal respect for the other countries of the world. Now, of course, big countries have more complex economics. Small countries have different sets of standards and cultures and languages and so on. But the main point is sovereignty requires all countries respect each other with equality. Now, from that very traditional discussion, let's come forward to the present. And today, we're exploring a more modern understanding of sovereignty, and we'll call that global citizenship. You are studying that diligently here, and today we look at global citizenship as part of our story of the environment and part of our story of trade. As we look at this more modern conception of sovereignty, let's use a symbolic approach. We need a symbolic approach. What I suggest is the following. We think about music. We think about music. All the students who've come in late, come up further, and please sit down. You are interrupting our class. No one should come to class late, ever. You are here to learn. Could you please find a place and sit down? For the students that just came in, welcome. We're glad to have you. There's two rules. One, please put away your iPhones. And please, would you mind when I'm speaking, you would not be speaking? We'll just have one person talking right now, and that will be me. So I think a symbol or a symbolic consideration will help us today. Let's use music. Music is especially valuable because it's universal. I may not understand Chinese, and I may not understand Thai as languages. And I may not understand French very well, although I've studied French. But if I am in those countries, wonderful countries, each one, the music of that country is a way for me to understand that country. Let's go back to the early 1960s, the time of your parents and grandparents. What is happening in music in the early 1960s? We have music coming mostly from England and partly from the United States. And what do we call that music? We call that rock and roll. And let's just use one example from that period. The group, the Beatles. The Beatles become a worldwide sensation. Whether it's England or Argentina, whether it's Mexico or Peru, this music goes around the world. And I think that is is a very interesting symbol for us as we think about global citizenship. We're considering citizenship in this modern era. I'm not going to continue until everybody sits down. It's probably good that I'm just a visitor, because in our system, you simply do not come late and you do not talk in class. And I appreciate you are a different culture, and I need to respect your culture. Now, with this modern era, we do have one rule: there's no speaking. That applies to you. In this modern era, global citizenship is redefining how we relate to our own culture and how we relate to other cultures. It's a new way of thinking where we see we are connected to each other in ways that had never existed before. And from the 1960s on, as we spoke about music, we now turn to the environment. And what is happening to the environment? In the 1960s, we began to see negative impacts on the quality of air and the quality of water. And we began to see impacts on our own human health. So an important part of today is public health. We study the environment not just because it's interesting, although it is. It's our own human life. We can only survive on Earth with clean air and clean water. Unfortunately, sometimes we only learn through disaster. In the 1960s, there are several important disasters. We'll talk about the disasters more because they illustrate so well the problems. And a bit later, we'll discuss climate change, and we'll see how climate change can be a slow-moving disaster. But in addition to what we've already discussed, there's an extremely valuable, important development in 1962. In 1962, a wonderful woman, a scientist, very gifted scientist, she writes a book about what is happening to the environment. Her book is one of the few books that has changed human history. Her book, in just 400 pages, presents an entirely new perspective. What is she doing? What is her perspective? The perspective is, are we looking at nature and understanding nature, and are we avoiding the danger that we're creating with chemicals? Chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, chemicals that can kill animals and plants and chemicals that can also begin to have the most negative impacts on human health. Now, for you today, all of this is so obvious and so clear and so simple. But in 1962, her book is revolutionary. Revolutionary. She is looking at the world in a totally new way. She's not talking about making new products or having bigger factories or building more cars. She's talking about air quality, water quality, and public health. The name of her book is called Silent Spring. Silent, S-I-L-E-N-T, Spring, S-P-R-I-N-G. If we go to the library here in Thailand, here at the university, we'll find that book. If we go to Paris, we'll find that book. If we go to Berlin, we'll find that book. If we go to Beijing, we'll find that book. Wuhan. The book went around the world in the 1960s, and even today, as we speak, there's never been, ever, another book dealing with the environment as important and as influential as her book. So today, we pay tribute to her great gift. She, more than anyone, is responsible for beginning the modern environmental perspective. And therefore, the story of the environment and the story of global citizenship is also about her, a dedicated scientist who writes this brilliant book. Now, after that